It was supposed to be a normal afternoon. No warning. No signs. Just a quick drive. And then, fire. On November 30th, 2013, the world lost Paul Walker in a way that didn't make sense to a lot of people. Within hours, headlines were everywhere. A tragic car crash. Speed. Loss of control. Case closed. But here's the thing. Some of the details didn't line up. Witnesses said one thing. Reports said another. The fire spread faster than expected. And questions started popping up almost immediately. Not just from fans, but from people who actually knew cars, crashes, and how accidents really happen. Because this wasn't just any crash. This was a man who knew cars, lived around them, respected them. So how does someone like that end up in a crash so violent, so sudden, that there's almost nothing left to explain? And why did everything move so fast afterward? The conclusions, the reports, the silence. Over the years, theories started building. Some sound crazy, some not so much. Mechanical failure, driver error, outside interference, even darker possibilities that most people don't want to touch. But if you step back and really look at everything, the timeline, the evidence, the unanswered questions, you start to see something else. Something that doesn't feel as simple as just an accident. So today, we're going to walk through everything. The facts, the rumors, the overlooked details. And by the end, you decide for yourself what really happened that day. Before the headlines, before the crash, before all the speculation, there was just Paul. Paul Walker wasn't the kind of Hollywood star people expected him to be. He didn't chase attention. He didn't live for drama. In fact, if you looked at his life off camera, it was almost the opposite of the characters he played. He grew up in California, surrounded by a pretty normal family. Nothing flashy, nothing extreme. But even early on, there was something about him. Calm, steady, easygoing. The kind of guy people felt comfortable around without even trying. Acting came into his life young. Commercials first, then small roles. It wasn't overnight fame. It was slow, steady work. Years of showing up, learning, building something real. Then everything changed. The Fast and the Furious. That movie didn't just make him famous. It defined him. Suddenly, he was Brian O'Connor, the guy behind the wheel. The face people connected with speed, adrenaline, and that underground car world. But here's what most people don't realize. That wasn't just a role. He actually loved cars. Not in a reckless way. Not like someone chasing danger. He respected them. Understood them. He spent time around real drivers, real mechanics. He wasn't just pretending to know what he was doing. He actually did. And outside of movies, he kept things simple. No wild scandals. No constant headlines. Instead, he focused on things that didn't always make the news. Like helping people. After natural disasters, he didn't just donate money and move on. He showed up. Physically. On the ground. Working with teams. Getting his hands dirty. That's why he created Reach Out Worldwide. It wasn't for attention. It wasn't for publicity. It was because he actually cared. People who met him said the same thing over and over again. He was real. What you saw was what you got. No fake personality. No Hollywood mask. And maybe that's why his death hit so differently. Because it didn't feel like losing a celebrity. It felt like losing someone genuine. That day didn't start with anything unusual. No warning signs. No strange behavior. Nothing that suggested what was about to happen. Paul Walker spent the day doing something that actually meant a lot to him. A charity event. It was organized through Reach Out Worldwide, supporting victims of a recent typhoon. People came together. Cars were on display. Conversations were happening. It was a good atmosphere. Positive. At some point during the event, he linked up with his friend and financial advisor, Roger Rodas. Now, this part matters. Rodas wasn't just some random driver. He was experienced. A professional. Someone who knew high-performance cars inside and out. He even raced. So you've got two guys, both familiar with cars, both comfortable around speed, deciding to take a quick drive. Not a race. Not anything dramatic. Just a short ride. The car they chose was a Porsche Carrera GT. Now, if you know anything about that car, you know it's not just powerful, it's demanding. It doesn't forgive mistakes easily. It requires skill, attention, control. They left the event, got into the car, and within minutes, everything changed. The drive was supposed to be quick, but somewhere along that short route, something went wrong. And what happened next turned into one of the most talked about celebrity deaths in years. Because when the car crashed in Santa Clarita, it wasn't just a crash. It was violent, sudden, and followed by a fire so intense that it left behind more questions than answers. The crash happened fast. Too fast for anyone nearby to fully understand what they were seeing. 1 second, the Porsche Carrera GT was moving down the road. The next, it was gone, wrapped around a tree and a light pole in Santa Clarita. Witnesses described hearing a loud bang. Not just a crash, but something heavier. Metal crushing. Then almost immediately, flames. Big flames. People ran toward the scene, but they couldn't get close. The heat was too intense. Some tried to help. Others just stood there, shocked, not fully processing what they were looking at. The car was barely recognizable. And inside, Paul Walker and Roger Rodas. There was no time to react. No time to escape. Emergency services were called, but by the time they arrived, the fire had already taken over. It wasn't just burning, it was consuming everything. Later reports would say the car hit a light pole first, then spun, then slammed into a tree. The impact alone was devastating, but it was the fire that turned the scene into something almost impossible to piece together. Parts of the car were scattered. The engine had separated. Debris covered the road. And then came the early questions. How fast were they really going? Was it just loss of control? Or something else? Because some witnesses didn't remember seeing a long skid. No clear signs of braking. Just impact. And then fire. For a crash that violent, people expected more evidence leading up to it. Instead, it felt like everything happened in one single, unstoppable moment. Not long after the crash, investigators started putting together what they believed happened. The conclusion came quickly. Speed. According to official reports, the Porsche Carrera GT was traveling at a dangerously high speed, somewhere between 80 to 90 miles per hour, in an area where that kind of speed just wasn't safe. The driver, Roger Rodas, reportedly lost control. The car spun out, hit the pole, then the tree, and that was it. Investigators also looked into whether drugs or alcohol played a role. Toxicology reports came back clean. No substances. No impairment. Mechanically, the car was examined too. Officials said there was no clear evidence of a mechanical failure that would have caused the crash. No brake failure. No steering issue that could explain a sudden loss of control. Everything pointed back to speed and handling. And if you know anything about the Carrera GT, you know it has a reputation. It's powerful, yes, but also unforgiving. Even skilled drivers can lose control if things go wrong at high speed. So from an official standpoint, it made sense. Case closed. But not everyone accepted that. Because while the explanation sounded clean, the details behind it didn't always feel that way. Once the initial shock faded, people started looking closer. And that's when things got uncomfortable. One of the first things mentioned was the lack of clear skid marks. In most high-speed crashes, especially when a driver loses control, you expect to see signs, braking, swerving, something on the road showing the driver tried to react. But here, it wasn't that obvious. Some reports suggested minimal evidence of braking before impact, which raised a question. Did they even have time to react? Then there was the fire. It started almost immediately after the crash. Witnesses said it felt too fast, like the car was already in flames within seconds. Now, high-performance cars can catch fire after impact. That's not unheard of. But the intensity, the speed, it caught people off guard. Some experts later pointed out that the Porsche Carrera GT had a design that could make fires more severe under certain conditions. But still, the way it happened didn't sit right with everyone. And then there were the witness statements. Some said the car was going extremely fast. Others weren't so sure. A few described it differently, not like a car out of control, but more like something sudden happened. Something that changed the situation instantly. There were also questions about the road itself. Was there debris? Oil? Something that could have caused a sudden loss of traction? Nothing official confirmed it, but it wasn't deeply explored either. And then came the timing. From crash to fire. From fire to total destruction. Everything happened so quickly that it left almost no room for clarity, which made people wonder, was everything really examined as closely as it should have been? Or was the conclusion reached before all the questions were fully answered? Because when you put all these details together, it doesn't completely break the official story. But it definitely doesn't make it feel as simple as it first sounded. Once people started noticing the gaps, the internet did what it always does. It filled them. At first, it was small conversations, forums, comment sections, people asking simple questions. Then it turned into full-blown theories. The first one sounded reasonable. Mechanical failure. Even though officials said the Porsche Carrera GT had no major issues, some car experts weren't fully convinced. That car had a reputation, not just for power, but for being unpredictable at the edge. It didn't have modern stability control like newer supercars. If something went wrong, there wasn't much to save you. Some pointed to the tires. Reports later revealed the tires on the car were older. Not necessarily worn out, but aged. And in high-performance driving that matters a lot. Old tires can lose grip without warning, especially at high speed. So one theory was simple. The tires failed. The car lost traction. Control was gone instantly. That could explain the lack of skid marks. No time to react. No chance to recover. Then came another angle. What if something broke in the moment? A suspension failure. A steering issue. Something sudden that wouldn't show up easily after a crash that intense. Because once the fire destroyed most of the evidence, proving or disproving, that kind of failure becomes almost impossible. And then there was the driver factor. Roger Rodas was experienced. More than experienced. He raced. He knew how to handle cars like this. So people started asking, would someone like him really lose control that easily? Or was he reacting to something unexpected? Something that forced the car into a situation no driver could recover from? That's where the theories started shifting. From simple explanations to something more uncertain. Because once you admit something unexpected might have happened, you open the door to everything else. This is where things get uncomfortable. Because not all theories stay grounded in mechanics or driving mistakes. Some go deeper, darker. There were people who believed this wasn't just an accident at all. That something, or someone, played a role. It sounds extreme, but for some, it didn't come out of nowhere. Paul Walker wasn't just an actor. He was involved in real-world situations through Reach Out Worldwide. Disaster zones. Crisis areas. Places where things aren't always clean or simple. And that led to speculation. What if he saw something? What if he knew something? Again, no proof. Just questions that started spreading online. Then there were claims about the car itself. Some people suggested the possibility of tampering. Not confirmed. Not proven. But talked about. Could something have been done to the car before the drive? Something subtle enough to go unnoticed, but dangerous enough to cause failure at high speed? It's the kind of idea that's hard to verify, especially when the vehicle was so badly destroyed. And then there's another layer. Surveillance. Some claimed the area had limited camera coverage, that the crash wasn't captured clearly from multiple angles. In a time where cameras are everywhere, that stood out to certain people. Again, none of this was confirmed. But once these ideas started circulating, they didn't go away. Because the more people looked at the official story, the more they felt like something was missing. Not necessarily a conspiracy, but clarity. Something that fully explains every detail without leaving loose ends. And until that happens, theories, no matter how extreme, keep finding space to grow. After the headlines slowed down, the story didn't actually end. It just moved into a quieter place. Courtrooms, expert reports, and long legal battles that most people never followed. The family of Paul Walker wasn't ready to just accept everything at face value. There were still too many questions, especially about the car itself, the Porsche Carrera GT. So they pushed back. Lawsuits were filed against Porsche, claiming the car had design flaws that made it dangerously unstable and that those flaws played a role in the crash and the fire that followed. This is where things got technical. Experts started breaking down the car piece by piece, what it was designed to do, how it handled at high speeds, and what could go wrong under pressure. One argument focused on the lack of modern safety systems. Unlike newer supercars, the Carrera GT didn't have advanced electronic stability control that could step in during a loss of traction. If the rear end slipped out, it was up to the driver alone to correct it. Another point centered on the fuel system. Some claimed the design made the car more vulnerable to fire after a severe impact. That once the crash happened, the conditions for a fast, intense fire were already there. Then there was the issue of the tires again. Experts pointed out that even if the tires looked fine, age could reduce grip in ways that aren't always obvious. At high speed, that margin matters. But Porsche pushed back hard. They argued the car was built to high standards, that it performed exactly as expected, that the crash was the result of excessive speed and loss of control, not a defect. They also emphasized something important. The Carrera GT was never meant to be an easy car to drive. It demanded skill, attention, and respect. And according to their position, when those limits are pushed, the outcome can be unforgiving. Back and forth, both sides went. Reports. Counter-reports. Experts disagreeing with other experts. But here's where it gets frustrating. Because the car was so badly destroyed, a lot of the physical evidence was gone. Burned. Twisted. Unrecognizable. That makes it harder to prove anything with certainty. You're left with fragments. Data that has to be interpreted. Opinions built on what might have happened, instead of what can be clearly shown. Eventually, many of the legal claims didn't succeed in proving a direct fault in the car's design, which, on paper, supported the original conclusion. But it didn't answer everything. Because legal outcomes aren't always the same as complete explanations. They just determine what can be proven. And in this case, a lot couldn't be. So even after all the pressure, all the investigations, all the expert analysis, some questions were still sitting there, unresolved. If you strip everything back, the rumors, the speculation, the noise, and just look at what we actually know, a clearer picture starts to form. Not perfect, not complete, but clearer. On November 30th, 2013, Paul Walker and Roger Rodas left a charity event in a Porsche Carrera GT. The car accelerated. At some point along that short stretch of road, it reached a high speed, likely higher than what that area could safely handle. Then something changed. Whether it was the tires losing grip, a slight miscalculation, or a combination of small factors stacking up at once, the rear of the car stepped out. In a vehicle like that, when the balance is lost, it happens fast. There's almost no warning. And once it starts, it's hard to recover. Even for someone experienced. The car spun, hit the pole, then the tree. The impact was severe enough to tear parts of the car apart. And almost immediately, the fire started. Fast, intense, consuming. From that point on, there was no chance. When you line it up like this, the official explanation starts to make more sense. Speed, loss of control, catastrophic impact, fire. But here's the part that keeps people thinking. It's not that the explanation is impossible. It's that it feels incomplete. Because in high-profile cases like this, people expect every detail to fit perfectly. Every question answered. Every angle covered. And when even small pieces feel uncertain, like the tires, the reaction time, the fire intensity, it leaves space. Space for doubt. Space for alternative explanations. And that's why, even years later, the conversation hasn't fully stopped. Not because there's solid proof of something else, but because the story, as it stands, doesn't feel airtight to everyone. More than a decade later, the image of that crash still lingers. Not just because of how it happened, but because of who it happened to. Paul Walker wasn't just another celebrity headline. He was someone people connected with in a real way. Someone who stayed grounded, even when fame could have pulled him in a different direction. And maybe that's why the questions never fully go away. Because when someone like that is gone so suddenly, people don't just want an answer. They want the right answer, something that makes sense of everything. But sometimes, reality doesn't give that. Sometimes, it's just a chain of events. Small moments stacking up until there's no way to stop what's coming. And other times, it feels like there's still something just out of reach. Something we can't fully see. So what do you think really happened that day? Was it just a tragic accident? Or something more beneath the surface? Let us know down in the comments. If this story made you think, hit that like button and subscribe. We go deep into stories like this to uncover what others don't talk about. Until next time, stay curious.